dear friends, welcome back to High Point again. Today in this video we'll be learning about Paul D. Mann, who was a deconstructionist thinker, and he was the disciple of Jacques Derrida, and we were looking after various concepts related to deconstruction put forwarded by various thinkers. First of all, we have already finished Jacques Derrida. Now in this video we will see about Paul D. Mann, about his life and career, major concepts and contributions to deconstruction, and also the list of his major works as well. So before beginning the video, let me tell you, do go and visit my website. The link to the website is there in the description box, and you can use that, click that link and go to the website and have the free trial after registering yourself, making yourself an account, and see what we have provided there. If you are interested to have this entire materials along with the PDF materials as well as the previous and practice question papers, you can subscribe to the course from the website itself. And if you have any doubts related to the study materials that we are providing, or the free bonuses of weekly test and personalized study guidelines that we are providing for our students, you can use this WhatsApp number to reach out to me, and also follow me on Instagram and use the Instagram platform to chat with me if you have any doubts. Okay, do visit my website certainly, so that you may know what you need to study one by one in order to cover the entire syllabus of NTA UGC NET JRF paper 2 English language and literature. Okay, so moving on about Paul D. Mann. Yeah, you need not to wait for the next NTA UGC NET JRF English exam notification. You can start learning from today itself from our website. Join our family as a student and make a call if you have any doubts. Yeah, about Paul D. Mann, this is the person that we are going to learn. He was a Belgian born literary critic and literary theorist, and at the time of his death, D. Mann was one of the most prominent literary critic in the United States. He was known particularly for his important German and French philosophical approaches into Anglo-American literary studies and critical theory. So he was popular for his German and French philosophical approaches into Anglo-American literary studies. Okay, do remember that. Along with Jacques Derrida, he was part of an influential critical movement that went beyond a traditional interpretation of literary text to reflect on the epistemological difficulties inherent in any textual, literary, or critical activity. So that is known as deconstruction, basically. So when you read it here, you may feel something different, but that is deconstruction. It is not following any traditional method of interpretation. It actually reflects on the epistemological difficulties, which is inherent, which is quite usual in every other textual, literary, and critical activity. We cannot go beyond that difficulty. It is there in every textual and literary critical activity. This approach arose to considerable opposition, which D. Mann attributed to resistance inherent in the difficult enterprise of literary interpretation itself. So this approach that Derrida and Foucault, both of them carried out, they had many theoreticians, other theoreticians, they had many oppositions to their critical approach, and actually D. Mann attributed this to the resistance inherent in difficult enterprise of literary interpretation itself. So literary interpretation is a difficult task, and there is a resistance from the literary piece itself, literary critical activity itself, that will make this interpretation is a interpretation as a kind of difficult task. Okay, now after his death, D. Mann became a subject of further controversy when his history of writing pro-Nazi and anti-Jewish propaganda for the wartime editor of L'Soir, a major Belgian newspaper during German occupation, came to light. So after his death, his name was associated to Nazi, pro-Nazi writings and all. Actually, after his death, Derrida deconstructed and read and deconstructed his works, and he said that, see, he's not necessarily a Nazi or pro-Nazi writer, because inherently in his own writing itself we can find many things that is opposing his own ideas. So he made such a reading. Now, let's see his major concepts. In his 1967 essay, Criticism and Crisis, he argues that because literary works are understood to be fictions rather than factual accounts, they exemplify the break between a sign and its meaning. Literature means nothing, but critics resist this insight. So, in his essay, Criticism and Crisis, he says that, see, literary work, people, how generally the public take literature always understood as fictions rather than factual accounts. Nobody gives more importance, no common man give more importance to what fact, literary pieces of work, and never take it as actual factual accounts. So literary means nothing for people. So this is a critique, this is a crisis, and this crisis is resisted by many critics actually. So he says that literature means nothing, it means nothing to people. Deman would later observe that due to this resistance to acknowledging that literature does not mean, English department had become large organizations in the serving of everything except their own subject matter. This concept he shares in his work, The Return to Philosophy. So later he further develops his insight, and he says that, see, because we are not acknowledging our own literature. So what we are doing, many people comments this too, when people ask what you're doing, I'm studying literature, then naturally many people, they'll say, not always, but I have faced this comment that you only need to study some summaries of poems, dramas, and novels, and all you need to go and you write these summaries and you get marks and grades. It goes like that. To some extent this is true too, because in English departments, like the man says, they have become a large organization in which they are doing everything except their own subject matter. They are not giving adequate importance to their own subject matter. They don't know, many people, they don't know why they are studying literature. Even some of you may not know why you are studying literature. Maybe you have love of literature, maybe you love this language of English, maybe you have other purposes after learning English literature, but we are unearthing meaning, we are finding out meaning, we are learning about society, we are learning about, we are changing in the process, we are changing many perceptions, our own perceptions and people's perception. Okay, we are engaged in critical analysis. Critical analysis is a very good quality that everyone should grow within themselves. So whenever you see things, whenever you hear things, you can read what is going on underneath it, and that is a good quality. Now, do not take whatever people say, whatever you hear as it is. There are many things that you cannot see directly, but you can reveal or unravel by critical analysis, that you should develop by reading literary criticism, and that you can learn, that quality you can acquire after learning English literature, and you can unearth meaning, you can change perceptions, you can change your own perception. That's a good thing that will make this world more beautiful to live, right? So he is the opinion that English departments had become large organization in the service of everything. They are doing any other services, but they are not giving adequate importance to their own subject matter. He said that the study of literature had become the part of applying psychology, politics, history, philosophy, or other disciplines to the literary text in an effort to make the text mean something. So we always strive that how this psychological theory can be applied in this particular text, how the so-called times, politics, and history can be read from this text, how this philosophy is relevant in this particular discipline or in this particular literary text. So this is what we are doing according to Deman. This is what we are doing, but we are not we are not taking care of that literary piece. We are studying literature. Okay, so we are, in a way, we are hasty enough to, we are making efforts to make some meaning out of something where meaning is not fixed at all. Okay, so this is a tragedy according to Deman. I'm not fully agreeing with that, but still. In his work Allegories of Reading, D. Mann further explores the tension arising in figural language in Nietzsche, Rousseau, Rilke, and Proust. So these are the major studies that he done about the writings of these persons. So he explores the tension arising in figural language of Nietzsche's writing, Rousseau's writing, and Rilke and Proust's writing. In these essays, he concentrates on crucial passages which have a metalinguistic function or metacritical implications, particularly those where figural language has a tendency on classical philosophical oppositions, essence, accident, synchronic, diachronic, appearance, reality, which are so central to Western discourse. So he mainly talks about the bipolar structure. Okay, so figural language, how figural language has a dependency on classical philosophical oppositions. Okay, how figural language is revealing these kind of dichotomies, how figural language is so much depending upon these bipolar structures, which is so central to Western discourse. Many of the essays in this volume attempts to undercut figural totalization, the notion that one can control or dominate a discourse or phenomenon through metaphor. So he is attempting an undercut of this figural totalization, and he says that someone can control or dominate a discourse or phenomenon through metaphor. So the usage of right kind of metaphor, which is actually dismantling this dichotomies and all. So if you choose your metaphors wisely when you write a piece of work, then you can control and dominate that discourse itself or that phenomenon itself. In D. Mann's discussion of Nietzsche's The Birth of Tragedy, for instance, he claims that genetic conceptions of history appearing in the text are undercut by the rhetorical strategies Nietzsche employs. The deconstruction does not occur between statements, as in a logical refutation or a dialectic, but happens instead between, on the other hand, metalinguistic statements about the rhetorical nature of language, and on the other hand, a rhetorical praxis that put these statements into question. So he trapped in a big trouble after his death for his readings of Nietzsche's and the so-called person's work, as he was labeled as pro-Nazi writer. So he says that genetic conceptions of history appearing in the text are undercut by the rhetorical strategies Nietzsche employs. He claims that genetic conceptions of history appearing in the text are undercut by the rhetorical strategies Nietzsche employs. So whatever the genetic conceptions that is there in the text, so it's undercut by the rhetorical strategies Nietzsche employs. D. Mann is also known for subtle readings of English, German, Romantic and post-Romantic poetry and philosophy. In his work, The Rhetoric of Romanticism, and a concise and deeply ironic essay of the quasi-programmatic theoretical orientation. So he made some readings of English and German, Romantic and post-Romantic poetry. That's what it is said. Specifically noteworthy is his critical dismantling of the Romantic ideology and the linguistic assumptions which underlie it. So while he was critically analyzing Romantic literature, he dismantled the Romantic ideology and the linguistic assumptions which was undergoing or underlie in it. In his argument, D. Mann seeks to deconstruct the privileged claim in Romanticism of symbol over allegory and metaphor over metonymy. So he deconstructs the privileged idea or privileged claim in Romanticism of symbols, that symbols, they consider symbols over allegory and metaphor over metonymy. So he actually deconstructs that in his reading. Because of the implication of self-identity and wholeness which is inherent in the Romantic's conception of metaphor, when this self-identity decomposes, so also does the means of overcoming the dualism between subject and object, which Romantic metaphor sought to transcend. So this is what he read from his critical analysis of Romantic poetry and philosophy. he says that because of the implication, the use of or the implication of self identity and wholeness, which is inherent in the romantic conception of metaphor. So what is the romantic conception of metaphor, and what is the inherent thing we can see in romantic metaphor? It is self identity and wholeness. When this self identity decomposes, so when we look at this self identity, it also does the means of overcoming the dualism between subject and object. So this self-identity decomposes and does the means of overcoming the dualism between subject and object. So it actually provides a means to overcome the dualism between subject and object, which a romantic metaphor sought to transcend. In De Man's reading, to compensate for his inability, Romanticism constantly relies on allegory to attain the wholeness established by the totality of a symbol. So he says that it's not only, we always say that Romanticism is about symbols rather than allegory. Metaphor is our metonymy in Romanticism. But he says that Romanticism and its metaphor has some inabilities. In order to overcome these inabilities, Romanticism continuously uses allegory to attain the wholeness established by the totality of the symbol. So they are not fully, away from allegory, but they are using some qualities, and they are using allegory itself in order to attain this wholeness established by the totality of the symbol. Okay. So that's what he is. So these type of readings we can find about Paul de Man. Do remember him as a deconstructionist reading, as a disciple of Derrida and all. Okay. Now let's see his major works. He has composed many works, many essays, and also I have just picked the important ones. You can pause the video and read the titles again and again so that you remember them. First one here is Blindness and Insight, Essays in the Rhetoric of Contemporary Criticism, published in 1971. Allegories of Reading, Figural Language in Rousseau, Nietzsche, Rilke and Proust, published in 1979. The Rhetoric of Romanticism in 1984. The Resistance to Theory in 1986. Wartime Journalism, published between the years 1934 and 1943. Critical Writings, published between 1953 and 1978. Romanticism and Contemporary Criticism, The Ghost Seminar and Other Papers, published in 1993. Aesthetic Ideology in 1996. So these are some of the important titles by de Man. You can have more if you search for more. If you find more titles, do comment that in the comment section so that other students also know about it. Okay. So that was a brief video. I have not mentioned in detail about de Man. If you wanted to know some more other details in a simplified manner, you can visit my website and see the slot given to Paul de Man or Deconstruction. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any doubts, queries, questions, do mention that in the comment section. Visit my website as well as do follow me on Instagram as well. And yeah, contact me through this number if you want to know anything further related to the course materials or any facilities that we are providing there. Meet you in the next video session. Until then, stay tuned to High Point and be happy. Strive for the best. Ta-ta, bye-bye. Thank you.